Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Booth, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Booth Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up the football gods this morning. I hope you guys are doing good on this Taco Tuesday. Although the calendar says Tuesday, it's really like Friday for the Dallas Cowboys because tomorrow, of course, is the travel day as they will be going to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The crazy thing is right now we have the Washington football team coming up the rear. And if the playoffs were to start today, the Washington football team with their 5-6 record would be a playoff team, as crazy as that sounds. If you are a Philadelphia Eagle fan right now, you got to be sick. You have to be sick because that was your space. All you had to do was beat the New York Giants. That's it. That's the list. It's the only thing you had to do. You had one job and you failed. So now, at the moment, and things are going to change. There's still a lot of football that's left to be played. There's still 6 more games for our Cowboys as well as for the Washington football team. And these things are going to change. Hell, a couple of weeks ago before we played the Atlanta Falcons, they were sitting at the number 7 spot. So there's going to be musical chairs, so to speak, for the last couple of spaces. I mean, Minnesota is right there. Of course, the 49ers are close by. The Eagles are close by and lurching and things. And so the crazy thing is the NFC East, literally, all the games are against each other. So the cream of the crop is going to have to rise. For our Cowboys, we've been through a rough stretch, and it's kind of like yesterday was just like you were in a fight with Mike Tyson back in the day. You were just getting clobbered left and right. You know, from one minute, you're hearing about Mike McCarthy getting COVID and sitting down, that there's 8 Cowboys that are, with COVID, according to Adam Schefter, which is true, because you think about Blake Jarwin, you think about Terrence Steele, you think about Mike McCarthy, you think about Joe Phoeben and the other coaches. Yeah, we've got like 8 people with COVID right now that will be out. Good news is Dan Quinn is taking over the reins for this game as the interim coach while Mike McCarthy is incapacitated. Now, Mike McCarthy is still running the team today and tomorrow, as well as Thursday, until they leave the hotel to go to the stadium to play the game. But the Cowboys, man, we have got to get a handle on COVID. I coined the term that the Cowboys are just the can't-get-right team. Just like in the movie Life, they can't seem to get right. Every time we think that we're making a step forward by getting a DeMarcus Lawrence back, we end up having a Tristan Hill get suspended for 2 games for a BS shot at the end of the game. It's just like there's always something lurking. And if you've watched the games, last night's Washington game or the Eagles and the Giants and some of the games, you look at how games are being called versus how they're being called for the Cowboys. You see that there really is an agenda against the Cowboys. I don't want to say that they're not being fair to the Cowboys, but they're not being fair to the Cowboys. They are not calling things the same way. Things that look like unnecessary roughness aren't called on other teams like they are being on the Cowboys. Pass interference. I'm looking at guys all over players and stuff, and they're not getting called like the Dallas Cowboys did. It's just, I guess it's just what it is. And the Cowboys may be America's team. They may be America's most hated team as well, because it sure seems like no matter what they do, they're just not getting there. Now, Amari Cooper was not practicing yesterday because they had to do conditioning and stuff to make sure that the time that he had off, that he didn't lose any of his conditioning. I doubt that he did. He should actually be back at practice today. Today will be, typically Fridays are what the Cowboys determine are the recovery days. So we don't know if today will be considered a recovery day where it's more like a walkthrough than an actual practice. But, at this point in the season, after week 11, there are no more padded practices, so to speak. That's in the collective bargaining agreement. So it's basically, you guys know what you're doing. We're going to go through and set what our game plan is and the variances on the plays, and we will go from there. But as far as like if you think they're going to be hitting the sled and doing that kind of thing, that's not happening. Now the Cowboys, of course, they need to get back on track and back in their winning ways, because we're only 2 games ahead of Washington in our division. And with us going 1-3 in No Nut November, that's right, I'm coining that for the Dallas Cowboys. It was no nut, because I'm a squirrel trying to get a nut, and we didn't get any nuts really in November. We have to get back on track here for the stretch run. The good news, of course, is we do get troops back. Neville Gallimore has started his 21-day window. He won't be playing on Thursday night, but could be playing by the time we get to Washington. That's a big run stopper that we'll end up having. Tristan Hill was actually coming on and playing well. Unfortunately, he is suspended for 2 games. No word on whether or not he will try to appeal that and see if he's still able to play for this game. It would behoove him to try and appeal that 2-game suspension and see if he can get a stay, because if he could get a stay for this game, the following game you get Neville Gallimore, so it wouldn't hurt quite as much. Like I said, we know that CeeDee Lamb is back from concussion protocol. He said that last week was one of the worst weeks that he's had, and just wasn't quite there ready to go for Thursday night Thanksgiving, but is back and is okay. Dak says he looks fine, feels great, and so on. Zeke Elliott is the wild card that we just don't know what's going on with. Zeke Elliott, we heard about the team talking about possibly sitting him because of nagging injuries that he hurt back in October 3rd. And you can tell that he doesn't have the same burst. They were talking about trying to rest him, possibly. Zeke Elliott says he knows nothing about that. Nobody's talked to him about resting. For me, I think this game's important because you don't want to go ahead and really just kind of go in this tailspin with the turnaround game against Washington where you have 10 days rest. But you want to have Zeke Elliott for the remainder of the season, because when the weather gets cold, as you're beginning to see, it's getting harder and harder to throw the football. And running the football is a must, and we need Tony Pollard as well as Zeke Elliott to be able to do that. So that's where we are. Let's hope that today we don't have one of those crazy days where it's just like hit after hit after hit of things going wrong. The big question is it time to panic? Well, I'm going to go through and listen to Rich Eisen. Rich Eisen seems to be kind of a more balanced view than most sports commentators.
That Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, who lost on Thanksgiving for the 4th out of the last 5 Thanksgivings to the Las Vegas Raiders, Mike McCarthy has tested positive for COVID-19. He will not be coaching this team on Thursday because the Cowboys kick off Week 13 in just 3 days against the New Orleans Saints, who got boat raced on Thanksgiving night. That's the new tradition since they started playing 3 games on Thanksgiving. That the Dallas Cowboys, that's a 2 teams from Thanksgiving Day kick off Week 13. So a Thursday night football game in the middle of the season, at the top of December, is going to have 2 teams on a full complement of rest. But what you won't see is a fully constituted coaching staff for the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy is not going to be coaching that game. And you could say, well, let's get Dan Quinn to be the play caller for the Dallas Cowboys, or for the guy who will be running the show for the Dallas Cowboys, since, he coached in a Super Bowl. Problem is he's defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys from the booth upstairs. Mm-hmm. So if you bring him down to have to run the game, that disrupts the way that they've been calling defense. Yep. And they're also not at home, so you're disrupting everything. So looks like, will it be Kellen Moore?
Nope,
I don't know. Personally, if I had to guess, it would be John Fossil, the special teams coach who spent a cup of coffee being the interim head coach of the Los Angeles Rams after they bounced Jeff Fisher in the middle of the season before they hired Sean McVay. Mm-hmm. We'll get to the Rams currently in a second. But I'll just say this for all those Dallas Cowboys haters out there, and as you know, TJ Jefferson, there are many of them. On this show, we are not alarmists. We are not knee-jerk reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving lost another football game, the whole country watching. I mean, it set damn near every record in the books watching a game this year in terms of ratings. Almost 40 million Americans sat down, and I think part of that is because we had to sit through the Bears and Lions before that, and we were dying to not talk to people.
Brutal.
And that game goes in overtime, which always is of interest, and the Raiders are so incredibly popular, and so are the Dallas Cowboys. And a couple of things I take from this game from the Dallas Cowboys are the following. One, Zeke's not himself, and Tony Pollard right now on this planet, on the outset of Week 13 to start for the Cowboys in a couple of days from now. Right now, Tony Pollard's a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott. And they should run the offense through this kid who had a 100-yard kick return and just has a different set of wheels right now than Zeke. And I know Zeke's, feed me and all that sort of business. But Tony Pollard's a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott right now. And your eye test can see it. And obviously Zeke may not be himself, and that's the ultimate issue is how, and this is the issue with the Dallas Cowboys writ large, how to evaluate this team when they're just not all there. They're not all there.
They're not.
And so you have to evaluate them to say they almost beat the Las Vegas Raiders without their two best wide receivers and their top two best pass rushers.
Right.
Or let's say, or their second and third best pass rushers because that kid
Micah
out of Penn State,
Micah
Parsons,
Beast.
is going to be maybe your defensive player of the year.
Beast.
Okay. So, and then you look at their standings. And tonight, the Washington football team can get a little bit closer. But the Giants did the Cowboys a favor by dousing the Eagles' flame a little bit yesterday. And the Dallas Cowboys right now have got some cushion to play with. If the Washington football team wins tonight, they'll be at 5-6, still two games back. That's it. And they do have their games left with them. If you look at the Cowboys' schedule, they're taking on a Saints team this Thursday night that even with their coach being on COVID, Sean Payton said after that Thanksgiving night game, basically, I know you want me to talk about the quarterback, and I know you want to talk about injuries, but respectfully, I know that's your job. I'm not talking about it. Because he knows that there's no answer at quarterback right now. That Taysom Hill is too hurt to be playing it right now. And if he's not going to play it on Week 13, Trevor Siemian's not the guy. It's that simple. But we knew that coming in. I mean, it's remarkable that they did beat the Bucs the game where Jameis went down. But the Saints should be beaten. And everybody knows it. And then they've got all the division games right in front of them. And they're better than Washington and the Giants and the Eagles. They are. Their biggest problem is going to be that game at home 2 days after the New Year on January 2nd against Arizona.
Right.
And that's their problem as well for the Cowboys. If they have any problem, is that the bye week, that one seed, I think, poof, that's gone. That's the way that one went. Can they get it? Of course. As long as regular season we got right now. There's more roadway. And the schedule, they should beat up their division opponents. That's what they should do. And then maybe, just maybe, new year, new calendar year, 2022, they beat the Arizona Cardinals. And that's a nice little calling card to lay out on the table before the playoffs begin.
Yeah, that's a
Put
good
that
way
in
to
the
look at it.
mind's eye of the team that's currently number one in the conference. And if you take a look at the conference standings right now, the Dallas Cowboys are in the position of having to face whoever finishes in second place in the NFC West. And unfortunately for Dallas and the Rams, that could be the 49ers, who are playing just like 2019 all over again. They're hitting people in the mouth. The defense is buzzing around. Josh Norman's getting in people's faces now. And Nick Bosa's getting in everybody's laps. And I hope Deebo Samuel is healthy because he is dynamic. As long as Jimmy G doesn't show up airmailing people like he did throughout first couple of quarters yesterday against Minnesota. But the 49ers are a physical team coming for you right now.
Yeah, Rich, update on Debo. Ian Rappaport saying he's going to have an MRI in his groin today, expected to miss a little time.
Okay, so that will not be good for the Niners as they're trying to stay above 500. They're above 500 right now since being starting the season. Since they started 2-0, right? Mm-hmm. And then they were not the same way.
So the thing to keep in mind here is The change on there is that the Minnesota Vikings are now out at the moment. Again, and this is going to change quite a few times. It's going to change quite a lot. Let's be clear on that. It's going to change back and forth each way because, we're basically a circular firing squad in the NFC East. We've got the Eagles, playing, of course, us. We've got Washington playing everybody, which is crazy that their last 5 games are all against division opponents. And that'll be sink or swim time. It'll give them an opportunity to at least get a couple of victories. Hopefully the Dallas Cowboys can do what they have with Dak Prescott, and that is dominate our division. We do that, then all things are great. But what we may want to think about here is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they're going to get Kyler Murray back. What we've seen when quarterbacks have come back from injury, from Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, they're not quite the same, at least that first week or two. The Cardinals have to play us, and they also have to play the Rams. So I'm not going to say that this thing is a done deal. Tampa Bay's kind of got an easy way to go through there, but you can kind of see this thing's just not done yet. So we'll have to wait and see how this all shakes out. What happens in November doesn't necessarily mean much when it comes to January and February, because at this point last year, Tampa Bay was 7-5. Going 2-2 in November and not looking like a Super Bowl team and didn't win their division, yet got hot at the right time and went on a run to win the Super Bowl. And with that being said, I got a whole bunch of work I got to take care of. And as always, you know how we roll.
Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report.
You did one hell of a job, and the only thing else I got to say is, how about